Ladies and gentlemen, today we dive into one of the most emotional and controversial endings in Japanese anime history, Eren Yeager's ending, and the question that still divides the anime world: was he a villain, or was he a savior? Eren Yeager's final choice is one of the most emotionally heavy moments in Japanese anime, because it forces the audience to rethink everything they believed about his journey. From the outside, his actions look unforgivable: mass destruction, endless deaths, and a world pushed to the edge of extinction. But when you look deeper, Eren's ending is not about winning or losing. It is about sacrifice, responsibility, and a twisted form of love. His final decision is not made in anger or hatred, it is made with full awareness of the consequences, and that is what makes it so haunting. By the end of Attack on Titan, Eren understands that he cannot create a perfect world. He knows that freedom for everyone is impossible. The world is already broken by history, fear, and endless cycles of violence. Instead of trying to fix everything, Eren chooses to narrow his goal. His final choice is about protecting a future for his friends and giving them the chance to live without being hunted forever. In Japanese anime, sacrifice often means giving up your life to save others. Eren's sacrifice goes far beyond that. He gives up his morality, his humanity, his reputation, and even the right to be remembered as a good person. What makes Eren's ending so powerful is that he intentionally positions himself as the enemy. He understands that as long as the world sees the people of the island as monsters, the cycle of hatred will never end. So he becomes the monster himself. By doing this, he shifts the world's fear away from his people and onto him alone. This is not a heroic sacrifice filled with glory. It is a calculated decision to absorb all the world's hatred so others can live with less of it. In anime storytelling, this is an extremely rare and brutal form of self-sacrifice. Eren's final moments also reveal that he never believed he was a savior. He does not see himself as righteous or justified. He sees himself as necessary. This distinction is crucial. A savior believes they are doing the right thing. Eren believes he is doing the only thing left. He accepts that his actions are wrong, but he also believes that choosing inaction would be worse. This mindset places him in a morally gray space that Japanese anime often explores, but rarely commits to so fully. Another important part of Eren's final choice is his honesty. In the end, he admits his fear, his confusion, and his selfish desire to be remembered by the people he loves. This moment strips away the image of the unstoppable force and reveals a broken human being beneath it. He is not a god, not a demon, just a boy who was given too much power and too much knowledge too early. His ending reminds us that even world-ending figures can still be emotionally fragile. Eren's sacrifice also challenges the audience directly. It asks whether intentions matter more than outcomes, and whether love can exist inside destruction. Did Eren save his friends? Yes. Did he destroy countless innocent lives? Also yes. Japanese anime rarely gives clean answers, and Attack on Titan embraces that discomfort fully. Eren's final choice is meant to hurt, to confuse, and to stay with the viewer long after the story ends. Eren Yeager's sacrifice is not meant to be celebrated. It is meant to be understood. His ending is a warning about what happens when freedom is pursued without limits, and when one person decides they must carry the entire world alone. He becomes both the shield and the sword, both the protector and the destroyer. And that is why his final choice remains one of the most unforgettable and painful endings in Japanese anime history. Eren Yeager's ending forces the audience to confront the question that defines his entire story: was he a villain, or was he a savior? In Japanese anime, characters are often clearly framed as heroes or antagonists, but Attack on Titan deliberately rejects that simplicity. Eren's actions place him in a space where traditional labels no longer work. He commits acts that are undeniably horrific, yet his motivations are rooted in protection, fear, and a desperate desire to end suffering for those he loves. This contradiction is what makes his ending so emotionally complex. From a surface-level perspective, Eren appears to be the ultimate villain. He unleashes destruction on a scale never seen before, wiping out countless innocent lives who had no direct role in the hatred passed down through history. Villains in Japanese anime often justify their actions by dehumanizing their enemies, but Eren never does that. He knows the people outside the island are human. He knows they have families, dreams, and fears just like him. And yet, he moves forward anyway. This awareness makes his actions more disturbing, not less. It removes any excuse of ignorance or madness. However, labeling Eren as a villain ignores the context that shaped him. From childhood, Eren lived in a world where survival depended on violence. Walls existed because peace failed. Titans existed because hatred endured. Every attempt at coexistence collapsed under fear and power imbalance. In this environment, Eren learned that hesitation led to death. When he finally uncovers the truth of the world, he realizes that his people are not just threatened, they are condemned by global consensus. In his eyes, doing nothing would guarantee their extinction. This belief reshapes his identity from a boy seeking freedom into a man willing to become a monster to protect others. From another angle, Eren can be seen as a twisted savior. He does not save the world, but he saves his friends. He ensures that Mikasa, Armin, and the people of the island are no longer immediately hunted or erased. In Japanese anime, saving a small, personal world at the cost of the larger one is a recurring tragic theme. Eren embodies this fully. His salvation is selective, and that selectiveness is what prevents him from being a traditional hero. A savior who chooses who deserves to live is already walking a dangerous line. What truly defines Eren's ending is that he does not seek validation. Villains often want recognition or domination, while saviors seek gratitude or legacy. Eren wants neither. He expects to be hated. He expects history to remember him as a monster. This acceptance of condemnation is key to understanding his role. He is not trying to prove anything to the world. He is trying to end a cycle, even if that means becoming its final symbol. Japanese anime frequently explores the idea that morality changes under extreme circumstances. Eren's story pushes this idea to its limit. His choices are born from a world that offered him no good options. The anime does not ask the audience to forgive him, but it also refuses to simplify him. Instead, it invites viewers to sit with discomfort, to acknowledge that someone can commit evil acts for reasons that feel painfully human. Eren Yeager is neither purely villain nor purely savior. He is the embodiment of a world that failed to protect its children. His ending does not give us a moral answer, it gives us a moral question. And that question lingers long after the final episode fades to black, reminding us that in Japanese anime, the most tragic characters are often the ones who believe they had no other choice. Eren Yeager's ending gains its deepest emotional weight when viewed through the lens of sacrifice, because everything he becomes is something he willingly gives up. In Japanese anime, sacrifice is often portrayed as noble. Heroes lay down their lives to save the world, and their deaths are framed as beautiful or inspiring. Attack on Titan completely subverts this idea. Eren's sacrifice is not clean, honorable, or celebrated. It is ugly, isolating, and soaked in guilt. He does not sacrifice himself to be remembered as a hero. He sacrifices his humanity, his future, and his right to be loved so that others may continue living. What makes Eren's sacrifice especially powerful is that it begins long before the rumbling. The moment he accepts the future he has seen, he starts letting go of the life he could have had. He distances himself emotionally, speaks harshly to those he cares about, and deliberately pushes his friends away. In Japanese anime, emotional separation often signals internal conflict, but in Eren's case, it is preparation. He knows that attachment will weaken his resolve. Every bond he cuts is a form of self-inflicted pain, a step toward becoming someone his friends can oppose without hesitation. This is not cruelty, it is calculation rooted in despair. Eren's sacrifice is also defined by his acceptance of being hated. Most characters in anime struggle with the fear of rejection or misunderstanding. Eren embraces it. He wants the world to focus its hatred on him alone. By becoming the ultimate enemy, he believes he can shield his people from collective punishment. This is a twisted form of protection, where one life absorbs the sins of many. Unlike traditional saviors who inspire hope, Eren inspires fear, because fear is the only language he believes the world understands. Another crucial aspect of his sacrifice is legacy. In Japanese anime, legacy often revolves around being remembered as a symbol of hope or change. Eren chooses the opposite. He ensures that history will curse his name. He understands that future generations will not see his internal struggle, his love for his friends, or the burden he carried. They will only see the destruction. And he accepts that. This willingness to be misunderstood forever is one of the most painful elements of his character. He gives up not just his life, but his story. Eren's sacrifice also highlights the cost of absolute belief. He believes so strongly in his version of freedom that he is willing to erase any alternative future, including one where he might have lived peacefully. This belief traps him in a role he cannot escape. In many Japanese anime, characters struggle against fate, but Eren becomes fate. He embodies the path he believes must be taken, even as it destroys him from the inside. His sacrifice is not about choice, it is about commitment to a conclusion he no longer feels capable of avoiding. What makes this sacrifice resonate is that it is deeply human. Eren is not emotionally numb. He feels fear, regret, and grief, but he suppresses them because acting on them would mean abandoning what he believes is necessary. The anime shows us moments of silence, stillness, and distant expressions that reveal how much he has already lost before the final battle even begins. By the time the world labels him a monster, he has already mourned himself. Eren Yeager's sacrifice is not meant to inspire imitation. It is meant to horrify. It asks the audience to consider how far someone can go when they believe they are the only one willing to bear the cost. His ending reminds us that in Japanese anime, the most devastating sacrifices are not the ones that save everyone, but the ones that save someone, at the expense of everything else. Eren Yeager's ending ultimately forces the audience to confront the most uncomfortable question in Attack on Titan: was he a villain, a savior, or something that exists beyond those labels? Japanese anime often thrives on moral clarity, where characters are clearly framed as heroes or antagonists by the end of their journey. Eren's conclusion deliberately rejects this structure. His final role is not meant to be categorized easily, because the story itself argues that the world he lived in was never simple enough for clean answers. From one perspective, Eren is undeniably a villain. His actions result in mass destruction on an unimaginable scale. Innocent lives are lost, entire cultures are erased, and the world is permanently scarred by fear. The anime does not shy away from showing the horror of these consequences. There is no attempt to soften the visuals or justify the suffering. This framing makes it impossible to excuse Eren's actions purely through intention. Regardless of his reasons, the outcome is catastrophic, and that reality places him firmly in villain territory by conventional moral standards. At the same time, Attack on Titan complicates this judgment by showing why Eren believed his actions were necessary. From his point of view, the world had already decided his people's fate. The island was surrounded by enemies who feared and hated them, and history had taught him that mercy did not protect the weak. In Japanese anime, saviors often rise to protect their home against overwhelming odds, and Eren follows this archetype, but he pushes it to an extreme. He saves his people not by defeating their enemies, but by becoming something far worse than them. In this sense, he is a savior who destroys the very concept of salvation. What makes Eren's ending so powerful is that the anime refuses to tell the audience how to judge him. There is no final speech that frames him as redeemed, and no definitive condemnation that erases his humanity. Instead, the story presents the consequences and leaves the moral verdict unresolved. This ambiguity is intentional. It reflects the central theme of the series, that cycles of hatred do not create heroes, only survivors and victims. Eren is both at once. Another layer of complexity comes from how Eren is remembered within the world of the anime. To some, he is the devil who nearly ended humanity. To others, he is the reason they are still alive. This divided legacy mirrors real-world history, where figures who commit extreme acts in times of conflict are often viewed differently depending on who survived because of them. Attack on Titan uses Eren's ending to show that history does not deal in absolute truth, it deals in perspective. Eren's final moments also emphasize that he never wanted to be judged as right or wrong. His concern was never moral validation, but outcome. He believed that if his friends could live freely, then his own condemnation was acceptable. This mindset places him outside traditional heroism. Heroes seek justice, recognition, or peace. Eren seeks resolution, even if that resolution is soaked in blood and ends with his own erasure. In Japanese anime terms, this makes him a tragic figure rather than a triumphant one. Ultimately, Eren Yeager's ending is not about answering whether he was a villain or a savior. It is about exposing the failure of a world that forced such a choice to exist at all. His story suggests that when societies are built on fear, inherited hatred, and unresolved trauma, they do not produce heroes, they produce people who believe destruction is the only form of protection left. Eren becomes the embodiment of that failure. As the series closes, the audience is left with a quiet, unsettling realization: Eren Yeager is not meant to be admired or hated without question. He is meant to be understood as a warning about what happens when freedom is pursued without compassion, when survival is prioritized over humanity, and when the world teaches its children that violence is the only language worth learning. Eren Yeager's ending is the final, haunting echo of everything Attack on Titan has been trying to say from the very beginning. His story does not close with victory, redemption, or clear justice, it closes with consequence. By the end, Eren is neither a pure villain nor a true savior. He is the result of a world that raised a child on fear, walls, and inherited hatred, then demanded impossible answers from him. Every step he took was shaped by a system that taught him survival mattered more than empathy and certainty mattered more than understanding. What makes Eren unforgettable in Japanese anime history is that his final choice exposes the cost of extreme ideals. His pursuit of freedom was genuine, but it became absolute, and absolutes leave no room for humanity. In trying to protect the people he loved, he sacrificed his own soul and forced the world to confront its own cruelty. His actions gave some a future, but they also proved that a future built on destruction is never truly free, it is only delayed from repeating the same pain again. Attack on Titan refuses to tell us how to judge Eren because the real question is not about him alone. It is about the world that created him. Was Eren wrong, or was he inevitable? Was he a monster, or was he a mirror reflecting humanity's darkest instincts back at itself? The anime leaves us with this discomfort on purpose, reminding us that when hatred goes unchallenged and fear becomes tradition, even the dream of freedom can turn into a weapon. In the end, Eren Yeager did not prove that monsters are born, he proved they are made, and that the most terrifying ones are created by a world that forgets how to choose understanding over destruction.